everyone. Welcome back. We are here for the final shorter segment of the podcast because I went rogue and we went really long in the last one. But we're going to get right to another question for you, Shannon. And this comes to us, I don't know why I took my glasses off, from someone who did not share their name. Our child was given aid in the form of a need-based scholarship and a loan. The school does not offer merit-based scholarships. We discussed maybe selling a car and carpooling so we wouldn't have to take the loans this year since it's not subsidized. But we're told by the financial aid office that if we choose not to accept the loans, it could affect the need-based scholarships that are offered the following year because they may assume there are resources available that they don't know about. Is this typical? Interesting question.
Yeah, and no, it's not typical. I saw this question and it was not typical to me. I went and asked all of our colleagues, have you ever heard of this happening? And everyone said no. This would not have happened at any of the dozens of schools that we've collectively worked at. It seems like a really smarmy move to discourage people from budgeting and finding ways to save money so that they don't have to borrow any more than they need to. So this is not typical at all at any of the schools that any of us have worked at. Not taking a loan for a freshman year would not affect any future year's aid at all. We would not make any assumptions about that other than the family budgeted so that they didn't have to.
Right.
So no, this is not typical. It is surprising to me. I can't say for sure that whoever told you this was wrong. I think in your position, I might just try maybe talking to somebody else in the financial aid office to see if you do in fact get the same answer or not. You might have spoken to a work study student who just had the wrong end of the stick. And you talk to somebody else and they may give you a different answer. If it is in fact the policy of the school, again, that would be surprising to me, but not impossible. And aid is reduced for the next year, I would send in an appeal letter and explain the reasoning why you did not take the loan and what you did budget wise to make that happen. It's not that you have some secret stash of money someplace.
Right.
So if your aid was reduced for this reason, I would send in an appeal letter and ask for it to be reinstated. But it is surprising to me. It is not a typical policy, but I would say that something that one of my colleagues brought up that does ring true for me is if a family declines a student loan, but then comes back to appeal for additional funding during that same school year, basically saying that they have some extreme financial circumstances. Could we give them any more grant money? If they haven't taken the loans, the small amount of government student loans that we've offered initially, but then they're asking us for more grant money to make kind of a special exception for them, we wouldn't necessarily look particularly generously upon that appeal. The attitude being, you're not even kind of taking the money we've already offered you, you're not willing to do your part, yet you're asking us to kind of go above and beyond. So that's the only part of it that rings a little bit true. If you were to go back and appeal during that same academic year for additional grant money, the fact that you haven't taken the loans out to begin with might be a little bit of a negative in the review of that appeal, unless you have some compelling circumstances why you really cannot borrow any more money. But in terms of the next year's financial aid, it's kind of a straight calculation. They're not making judgments about how you paid the previous year's bill. So it would not be a typical policy for them to take grant money away. I can't say it's impossible, but I'd ask somebody else in that financial aid office, see if you might get a different answer. If they do take grant money away, I would appeal that decision.
Cool.
Yeah, and the next question we have comes in from Jen. And she says her student attends a small, rigorous online high school with synchronous classes. Think Stanford Online High School or Davidson Academy Online. We love the school and plan to stay because it's an amazing fit. But because this is such a new option, I do worry about admissions officers understanding it. What can my kiddo do with regards to their application or extracurriculars to communicate to the colleges that even though they attended an online school, their high school experience was a full and robust one, and they weren't just a hermit in a darkened room?
Yes. Okay. A couple of things, I think. So, first of all, one of the things that every school makes available to the colleges when a student applies to college is a profile. So, I would ask the school, if you have never seen the school's profile, which is usually updated every year, but I would ask to see what is the profile that they're sharing with the colleges. It may be online, at a lot of schools it is, but take a look at that. And that should share good information about the high school, about how classes are conducted, about how students engage with each other. And it should give a fairly good picture of what that school experience is like. That said, the other really important thing for students, and this would go for homeschooled students as well, one of the concerns always is that interpersonal skills piece, right? So can they
Right.
get along with other students? So what I would encourage is getting involved in extracurricular activities that puts them together physically with students their own age. And so maybe that is playing sports, maybe there's a local rec league, or maybe you can join and play varsity sports for your local high school. Maybe it's just some clubs that they join or in-person art classes or something like that, but find ways to be engaged with other students, ideally physically engaged with other students, unless there is, health reasons they can't
Right.
right now. So those would be some things that I would be focusing on outside of the classroom. So it's clear that your student isn't just sitting in a darkened room, but is in fact, can and does engage with students their own age and is getting out of the house and are they're ready to be on a college campus and live in a dorm and deal with other students their own age, because that's really the primary concern you're going to have when students are either homeschooled or doing online school, is simply that, do they have the social skills to be successful once they get to college? So
Right.
Shannon, thank you so much for joining today. It's that quick. We're up. That's what happens when you take 23 minutes for your second segment. So I appreciate you being here.
Oh, my
Um,
pleasure.
so we also want to thank everybody who joined us today. And I want to thank Gabby, who was here earlier. Next week, Ian is hosting. We're talking about juniors and winter break. So what things juniors can be doing in their upcoming winter break towards the college process. Also, next steps for students who are going to start getting early decision and early action results. And then spring tuition payments are going to be due soon. So talking about how to cover those payments with savings, with tuition payment plans, with loans. We're going to be talking about that. Don't forget, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. The more we get, the easier it is for others to find us. If you have a question and you want to see Shannon or I answer it, or one of my co-hosts answer it, then send them to us. You can post them on Facebook, on Instagram. You can send them to us via email at gettingin.voiceamerica@gmail.com. And we are here every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific.